What's up, guys? We're going to try something a little different today. Just a nice, super casual chat about this book, Black Spire. It's been out for a week now, and we're going to get into full-on spoilers about it. We're just going to talk about it. Molly and I really, really liked this book.
Yes.
It's up there with Alphabet Squadron for me. I don't know which one I liked more right now, but it's not really a surprise because Delilah Dawson.
Yeah. I was going to say it's probably my favorite book since Phasma.
So you're just a Delilah Dawson fan.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we're just going to go through it from start to finish and just kind of chat about whatever comes to mind. If you haven't read it and you want to avoid spoilers, skip today.
This isn't the video for you.
Yeah, because we're going to talk about all of the stuff, including the things that broke our hearts.
Yeah.
At least my heart. So, yeah, this book takes place... Well, it starts, I guess, very shortly after Phasma does, where Vi is brought back to Dakar, back to the Resistance, and she's with Captain Cardinal. They're both nursed back to health, and then they let Cardinal go off and do his own thing, because he doesn't want to be part of the Resistance.
Yeah. Leia decides to give Vi a special job in finding a new Resistance base, or a new location for the Resistance base.
Yeah, they know that they need more people, but before Vi can go to Batuu, which is where they decide would be a good location, Starkiller base fires, and just everything stops dead.
Fire on the base.
Yeah, we're not there yet. But the Hosnian system is destroyed, and so Vi has to wait. And then after the events of The Last Jedi, that's when she goes off to Batuu, and that's when things pick up. And she knows where Cardinal is. He's been kind of mentally deprogramming himself for a while.
Mm-hmm. He's been at like a retreat.
Yeah.
I don't know what you would call it.
No, that's pretty much it.
Cleansing retreat.
Yeah, on the planet Syria, which is funny. Like, that's what people do there.
Yeah.
So that was back from Legends. So that worked out pretty well. So she picks him up, and there's a really interesting dynamic with them because Cardinal tortured her a lot.
Mm-hmm. And it was Leia's idea to pair them up for this specific mission. And like you said, their dynamic is really interesting because it's basically like her former abuser is now her partner.
Right.
And even though she did, in the end of Phasma, kind of let him escape.
She saved his life.
Yeah. She's still really hesitant to be around him at first.
Yeah, they have a really interesting relationship because she doesn't hate him, but she's also like, why did I save his life? What was going on there? And it's like kind of one of those destiny force things.
Yeah.
Something told her to do it, and she did it.
And they both have kind of a PTSD thing going on in the entire book. Her from being tortured, and him from torturing her, and just from the First Order in general. Yeah,
it's good to point out that he does not feel good about what he used to be.
No.
I love Captain Cardinal. I loved him in Phasma, and just seeing a stormtrooper who wasn't just a stormtrooper, and he was able to kind of break through the programming and see that the First Order wasn't what he thought. And so this is very much like a sequel to Phasma. Mm-hmm. It's not Phasma 2.
No.
But...
because Phasma's not in it at all.
Yeah, because she dead. We'll see. But yeah, we're picking up with the same main two characters, I would say.
Yeah, and it's kind of like... it's almost like the character of Captain Cardinal is dead, and now we have Archex.
Yes. So his actual name is Archex, and that's what he goes by the rest of the book. So they go to Batuu, and their goal is to just kind of blend in for a while, make some friends, put up a base that the Resistance can use. But that all gets stopped because as they're approaching Batuu, they're shot down in the midst of, like... This was kind of... I went like, okay, this is kind of convenient here, but...
It felt like an episode of Resistance to me where, like, pirates come in. Oh, no.
Right. It's just like two other people are fighting, and then they happen to get shot down in the midst of that fight. And it's like, okay. on the one hand, it does show that Batu is this totally lawless place, which it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
But they get shot down, they crash, and then all of their supplies are stolen while they're knocked out.
Yeah, so they don't have any way of communicating back to the resistance.
Right. And then they have to go into Black Spire and try to find their supplies. And this is just like the one little segment of the book that didn't quite work for me. It's the only segment from like where they get shot down to then Vi pretty much goes on a tour of the park.
Yeah.
And it's like here's where you buy clothes, and here's where you can get a snack, and here's where you can get some more food. And like,
well, because I mean, it works because she has to blend in, so she has to buy clothes that look like whatever the locals are wearing, and she has to learn about the different shops and, you know, the cantina with Oga. We'll get into that a bit later. But if you've been to Galaxy's Edge and you read this book, it will be very familiar.
Right. And I don't blame Delilah for this at all. It definitely feels like kind of one of those corporate synergy, like, make sure you check these boxes when she gets to Black Spire.
Sure.
And to Delilah's credit, everything that Vi does, like, is there for the story. Like, yeah, she needs to disguise herself. She needs to eat. Mm-hmm. She needs to do all these things. And also, it's condensed to, like, this one chapter.
Right.
It's like 1 or 2 chapters where Vi goes through, and then we're back to the main story.
But, I mean, at the same time, I enjoy all the Batu stuff because it's becoming a bigger and bigger part of Star Wars. They're putting it in books and comics, and we may even see it in episode 9. We don't know.
I mean, I like Batu. It's just the more cynical side of me was like, okay, very corporate synergy, and like, I get it. Yeah. But whatever. It is what it is. And what my fear for this book and for like the Galaxy's Edge comic were that it would just be a huge advertisement and nothing more. And in my review, I said that like this book is so much more than just an advertisement. It's like within the first 100 pages or so, yeah, you have to deal with the corporate part of it, and then it's gone, and you never deal with it again.
Right.
We're back to just Star Wars goodness, and it's like, yeah, she goes to Savvy's workshop because that's where her job is, but we get to learn about Savvy and how like he's besties with Lor Santeca, or he was, R.I.P. Lor, but like, of course he knows some of those people, and of course they're like trying to get Jedi stuff. Yeah. They find kyber crystals and lightsaber parts, and we're like, ooh, I know what that's for.
Yeah, it's so basically she just has to get a job and make money so that she can buy back her stuff. I think she even sees her stuff being sold and is like, that's our stuff.
Yeah. She has to buy back her stuff because it was taken by criminals like Oga, who owns the cantina.
So she's the local crime boss. She's the boss lady in town in Batu. Everybody knows her. Even when we went to Galaxy's Edge, if you brought up her name, people would have different reactions about her. So she's kind of like the bigwig in town. So
when we went to Galaxy's Edge, we did not get to go to the cantina, but I heard a story of someone saying, like, I was in the cantina and I did a Wookiee call, and all the bartenders stopped what they were doing and looked at me and said, don't do that. Oga just broke up with a Wookiee. And then in this book, you get to see the breakup, which is a violent breakup.
It's not pretty, but it's hilarious and awesome.
And like that, I really appreciated, because that's stuff that, like, that's deep cut. It didn't feel corporate synergy to me. That felt like it's helping you act like this world is real when you're in Batu and you hear, like, maybe you read the book first and then you go and you're like, oh, I did hear about that breakup. Yeah. Or like us, we went first, then we read the book, and we were like, oh man, like that's something that you would only know if you had asked someone
that works there,
that knew about it.
Yeah. And speaking of Oga and Wookiees, I remember when Galaxy's Edge was first announced and people started seeing more and more of it, a lot of people asked about, well, are there going to be any alien species around? And there is Doc Undar. He's part of it, but in the book, there are definitely lots of different species living amongst the people of Batu.
Yeah, that's just like one of those unfortunate things for a theme park that's like exists in Orlando and Anaheim where it's hot all the time.
Yeah, you can't have people in Twi'lek makeup for hours at a time. There is the one guy that does Chewbacca, and I feel for him in that suit. And there's a reason why they can only be out for like a couple minutes at a time, then they gotta go back because gotta take a break. But there are definitely, I mean, it's an outpost, and it's like people are constantly coming and going from there.
Black Spire does a really good job of making you kind of use your imagination while you're like, when you're at the park, you can be like, yeah, there's supposed to be a ton of aliens here. Logistically, there just can't be. But when it comes to Star Wars and aliens and all that, like, Black Spire does a really good job of that. And so does Crash of Fate. Both of those Galaxy's Edge books. But let's talk about Oga, because I want to get to what Vi does for Oga.
Sure. Okay, so, So she wants to meet with Oga because
Oga stole, like, all of her stuff.
Yeah, to confront her about all the stolen stuff. And it's cool how she does meet her, because there's, like, a secret passageway in the cantina somewhere that is, like, where Oga's actual office is, and she's got these, like, I don't know, bodyguards, or, like...
If we ever get to go back to maybe the Orlando one, and we get to go to the cantina.
It's like in the bathroom or something.
I want to just like start pushing around walls. Like, what are you doing? Or like, there's a secret passage here.
Yeah. So there's Oga, and she's got some like goon type characters with her. And then.
Well, okay. So I'm excited. So Oga says she'll give her stuff back if she finds this treasure for her. Like, she and Dok-Ondar are competing to get through these ruins where there's some treasure located. Which is also a part of the theme park that's not quite open yet. It's not open yet. A reason. Yeah. That's where I guess we'll get into that later. There's ruins, and they're at the park. You just can't see them yet. There's a treasure in there. And so Oga has sent a handful of people, and they've all come back dead. And Vi is now going to try, and it's so Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. I loved it. Yeah. I actually started reading this before he got a chance to, and I was like, oh man, you're gonna love this. Like, she gets to there's traps throughout the temple or the ruins, and she sees like a dead body, and she's like, all right, there's something in here, and she has to figure out the trap and make her way through, and she outsmarts all this stuff. And just like in Crusade, the First Order's behind her. She doesn't know that, but they're like able to make their way through the ruins and follow her because she's disabling everything. And that's like the first big confrontation with the First Order. And then she takes like this blue crystal necklace thing. Yeah, it's like, it's not a kyber crystal. It's just like a precious gem type necklace. But when she was wearing it, there was like, she felt wrong. She wanted to get it off of her. Like, it was bad juju. Yeah, there's some bad juju on that thing. I don't know what it's about. It didn't spark any memory in me of like, oh, that's this thing from Legends. Like, no, I think it's something new. Maybe if you ask someone at Galaxy's Edge, they would know. I don't know. That's a good point. I mean, Dok-Ondar specializes in interesting ancient little trinkets like this, so it's, of course, something that him and Oga are trying to get. Yeah, Oga is, like, trying to outbid him, I guess, or, like, get it so she can sell it. Yeah. And Dok-Ondar is, like, the one person at the outpost that she kind of lets do what he wants, but they still have this, I wouldn't call it a friendly rivalry. It's, like... I mean, everyone's basically out for themselves in Batu, and everyone's kind of all about the money. Yeah. So... yeah. Well, that's, I would say, a big theme of this book, is that everyone here is like, the First Order and all that, that's out there. We don't care about that. Yeah, they're not going to come here. Why would they come here? That doesn't matter. Yeah, and it's one of those things where, and we're kind of getting ahead of ourselves, but that some of the people of Batu have to decide that they need to stand up for themselves. And like, when the First Order first arrives, it's like, well, okay, if we just keep our heads down, it'll be fine. And it's not fine.
Yeah.
So they need to start learning to resist. Mm-hmm. And more people join the resistance. So I guess we should talk about some of those other characters.
Yeah, so Vi starts to do a little poking and prodding around town to see if anyone would be willing to be okay with the idea of being part of the resistance. So she's kind of planting the seed and seeing how people feel about it.
And that's where a lot of that discussion of, oh, no, we don't take sides here comes from. But she keeps kind of finding people who need help. And it's like, it's not just about resisting the First Order. It's about resisting bullies. Like we see Creaky, the Chadrafan technician who's being beaten by her boss.
Yeah.
And Vi beats up her boss and says, come with me. And so now she has a technician.
Yeah.
And there's Dolan, the farm boy, the simpleton.
Yeah,
Not simpleton, but the simple farm boy who, like, the Black Spire outpost, he's like, I ain't never been off the farm.
Yeah, it was cool to see that there's, like, farmland outside of the city of Black Spire. There's, I guess, just farmland. And so, yeah, Dolan lives with his grandmother,
I think.
And she's a cranky old lady.
She was mean.
She was mean.
I don't blame Dolan for being like, I'm going off on an adventure.
Yeah. So his character is like the classic mama's boy, I guess.
Grandmama's boy
that then decides to do something with his life and ends up joining Vi and
he's one of the guys that, like, gets the most support. Like, he rallies his fellow farm people to come help out in like the big fight at the end.
Yeah. And I like that he has a pet truffle boar.
Yeah. Basically like a tiny hapabore.
Yeah.
Which I remember when I interviewed Delilah Dawson for Phasma, I think, she talked about how her son loves hippos and creatures like them. So I have to imagine that was a creation for her son to be like, look, you can have a little truffle boar.
Yeah, he's like a little pig dog.
Yeah.
And he likes to lick people's feet.
Then we have Zaid. What was interesting about this book is how I felt like characters were introduced into it very late in the game. Like, Zaid was a late addition to the party, but I liked him a lot.
Yeah, he's kind of like this swashbuckling guy who's very, like, I don't know.
A drunken loudmouth?
Yeah. He's really, I want to say buoyant. I don't know what.
Buoyant, boisterous?
Boisterous?
He's very light.
He's very lightweight. No, yeah, boisterous is the word I was trying to think of. But yeah, she wants to recruit him as part of their group because she thinks that he would be a good candidate to kind of rally people up.
Well, yeah, like everyone, even though he's a drunk, just braggart, like people hang off his every word. He's very charming. I wonder if, so Delilah has been tweeting about how there's like hints of Brooklyn Nine-Nine in this book. And we love Brooklyn Nine-Nine. That never occurred to us while we read it. And then we started reading her tweets and we were like, I wonder what that means exactly. And like part of me wants to reread it with that idea in my head. But maybe Zaid is kind of a Jake Peralta character.
Yeah, I could see that.
Just
super cocky.
Yeah, very sure of himself, but also kind of dumb.
Yeah, but I mean, he gets it done.
Yeah, he does. And Pook.
Pook.
You loved Pook.
I loved Pook.
Pook's the droid.
Pook is a droid. I forget what kind of droid.
Like a PK worker droid.
Yeah, it's one of the ones with like all the different arms, right?
It's a Legends one that just has like a big black orb for a face.
Yeah. It's like L3 if she were very existential and like didn't care about anyone's well-being at all.
Yeah, it's like L3 mixed with maybe HK47, but not nearly as violent or any of that. But just like, yeah, oh, you humans are not. It was a really fun character and used appropriately. It wasn't overdone. Pook would just like pop in to say something funny and pop back out.
Or mean. She was
Right.
just like straight up mean some of the times.
Well, funny.
Yeah.
I think those are all of the Resistance characters, but the main First Order villain is Kath, who I liked that name. I think I pointed out in the facts video that there's a creature called a Kath Hound from Dantooine, and so he's like all about the hunt, and Vi is his quarry, so I figured he was named after a Kath Hound. Yeah, he's just like this, described as a huge dude who has a beard, and when they wrote that, I immediately was like, there's a First Order officer with a beard at Galaxy's Edge.
Yep.
But Galaxy's Edge takes place after Black Spire, and Kath dies at the end. Told you there'd be spoilers. So it can't be him.
Yeah.
But for a second, I was like, oh, we met him.
Yeah. I even went back and looked at our vlog footage, and I was like, he does have a beard.
Yeah.
But
I liked him as a villain. Not too, like, I don't know. It felt like a good match for our team.
yeah.
Where it's not like they had to face Kylo Ren. Mm-hmm. They had to face someone on their own level.
Was Kylo Ren mentioned in the book?
Yeah, a handful of times.
Yeah.
And we'll get to the epilogue in a little bit, but...
Yeah.
Oh, let's get to the epilogue now. Like, the end of the book, after Vi goes through all of her recruiting and stuff, and she has a small team, and basically their goal is to give the First Order just a little something. Cat, hi. They want to give the First Order just a little bit so that they leave and don't come back to Batu. And then while they're on their way up to the Star Destroyer, they're also going to blow up the shuttle.
Right.
So that winds up being... they were going to do this whole thing where when the shuttle takes off, they were going to send some message that says, like, the Resistance spy is dead, and then the shuttle would blow up.
Right. The Creaky?
Creaky, yeah.
Yeah, she was going to, like, hack the system and put this message
Hack the planet.
put this message into their comms.
So, like, obviously the people on the shuttle would know the Resistance spy isn't dead, but then, like, this message would get sent out anyway to the Star Destroyer, and then all the people in the shuttle would die when it exploded, and then the First Order would be like, well, there's nothing here for us, let's leave. That plan doesn't quite work out, and they wind up taking Cardinal, and I remember... Well, first of all, him coming back to the fight. I just love his whole story where he's like, who am I anymore? Like,
yeah, in the entire book, he's kind of still recovering. He's got like a bum leg and
a bum lung.
Yeah, so he feels kind of like, I can't do anything. I can't help. And he, there's this dynamic with them where he feels left out and useless, but he comes charging in to save the day at the end.
And he's, like, got stolen Stormtrooper armor, and he painted it red. Mostly, not like he's reverting back to his identity, more to make the First Order people go, like...
Yeah.
It's you.
They want them to recognize who he is and go straight after him because he escaped, and it's
everyone
so
knows
good.
him as a traitor.
Yeah.
But yeah, they wind up taking him onto the shuttle as well. So, I mean, that whole thing, when I realized he was giving himself up, I was just like reading the book like, no. Like, I love his character.
Yeah. And he knew what he was doing.
Oh, yeah.
And he was helping them buy time. And it kind of was reminiscent of how intense the torture scenes were from Phasma, because this was an intense fight.
It's a violent book.
Yeah.
But yeah, that broke my heart. Like, and not that this means anything, but Delilah knows. I told her how much I love Cardinal.
I mean,
I got to tell her on multiple occasions. She still killed him.
He goes out in a blaze of glory, though, and it completely redeems what he did with the First Order, and it kind of makes me think of what we thought might have happened to Finn in The Last Jedi before we actually saw the movie. We were like, oh, maybe Finn wants to redeem himself for being in the First Order, and we see him try to make this heroic effort and die by taking out that cannon, but he doesn't.
Yeah, it is. You're right. It's a lot like that. But this time he actually dies, and my heart broke, and I was so sad.
So sad.
Like, I could have seen that character going on forever and ever, but now he's gone. And, I mean, it was a good way for him to go out. I didn't feel like there was so much more that we needed from him. I just like and appreciate the character. And part of me wonders if JJ is like, no, Sith troopers are the red troopers, and I'm now you have to kill Cardinal. Like, I doubt that happened, but... Yeah.
But, so, in the end...
I'm just looking for someone to blame for this.
Yeah. So, in the end, they end up convincing the town that the Resistance can have their base there, and the base is going to be in the area where the ruins are. Mm-hmm. So, at Galaxy's Edge, that's where the new Resistance... Rise of the Resistance ride is going to be. It's not open yet, but I assume it's gonna.
Yeah, the epilogue is all about like, and throughout the book they're setting up the base in the ruins and getting it ready. But then in the epilogue they're like, all right, it's a full-on base now. Yeah, more and more people are joining every day.
Fully operational. From what we've seen pictures of at the park, like you can see X-wings and stuff there. So. But
then they. This kind of bugged me about the epilogue is that the First Order comes back. Mm-hmm. And it kind of, like, obviously they have to be there because they're there at the park. And I felt like that kind of negated what Cardinal did and just lessened it, where he sacrificed himself to keep the First Order away from Batuu, and it just didn't work out, and that's a bummer. But
it allowed them to escape and to live.
Yes, it allowed his friends to live, and it allowed them to have the time to set their base up.
Yeah.
So it's because of Cardinal that Galaxy's Edge exists at all. And
maybe there'll be a Cardinal statue.
There should be.
At the base.
There should be.
Ooh.
I'll write a letter.
Ooh.
But, all right, we're about out of time. But that's a great way to leave it, I think. Yes, let's build a statue of Cardinal in Orlando and at Anaheim.
Yeah, or name one of the shops. No, that's not good enough. Statue right at the front.
Like Rocky in Philadelphia.
Yes.
Big bronze statue, but we'll paint it red anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, I loved this book. I thought it was great.
10 out of 10. Would read again.
10 out of 10. Wow. I'd probably give it a 9. There were a couple things here and there that I was like, but for the most part, like, I came away from it. It's just one of those things where, like, the ending I feel like just makes the book.
Yeah.
And
this is, for me, like, this is the perfect kind of book. It's a really good, I guess you could say, quick read, because I read terribly slow, and I finished this book within a couple of days. So I don't know. The pace is great. The characters are all fun. Yeah, the characters are great. I hope to see them again. And I'm excited to see, like, this Rise of the Resistance new area of the park if we get to go again.
Yeah. Delilah is very quickly becoming another one of those authors where, I mean, she already is. One of those authors where I'm like, if she's writing something in Star Wars, I'm excited about it.
Yes.
But yeah, that will be it from us. Let us know what you thought of this longer form discussion about the book. People have asked us to do spoiler-filled reviews before, and so we just figured we'd try it out.
Wanted to do a deep dive into the book.
So let us know what you thought in the comments. If you haven't already, please like this video, subscribe to the channel.
Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook.
And as always, thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.